Call the meeting to order. Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton?
Here.
Trustee Dodge?
Here.
Trustee Calandrello?
Here.
Trustee Healy?
Here.
Trustee Katsinas?
Here.
Trustee Malani?
Here.
Mayor Pico?
Here.
Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we get started tonight, I'd like to make a comment, and it's gonna be a little different than what we normally do. But in the last 28 months, everyone on this board and the last board, with the exception of one person, I believe, has been the subject of defamatory robocalls. We rarely comment on it because it's really a waste of energy. However, when these calls attack our police officers, I will not sit idly by. Our officers did an outstanding job taking 3 convicted felons off the street for being in possession of loaded weapons, heroin, and meth. Unfortunately, ridiculously low bonds were set by a circuit court judge, and the state's attorney did nothing to get this changed. If not for the excellent work of our officers to continue investigating and doing exactly what was required to get new evidence that led to more charges, these 3 convicted felons would have been back on the street. After this, a loser and coward hid behind an anonymous and fictional robocall attacking our fine officers and police force. In today's day and age, there is no such thing as a routine traffic stop. And for the courageous men and women of our police department to be anonymously defamed by a cowardly weasel is disgusting. In my opinion, Orland Park has the finest police department in the state. It is not an accident that last year we had the lowest number of crimes in 25 years, and we had the lowest violent crime rate for towns over 50,000 in the state. This is due to the outstanding work done on a day-to-day basis by our entire department. It is also testimony to the support that this board and the boards that came before us have given our police department. I want to thank the police department for their courage and day-to-day efforts to keep Orland Park a safe and vibrant community. I am proud to be the mayor of the town that you serve.
Approval of August 19, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meeting on August 19, 2019.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any changes? Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Approval of August 26, 2019 special meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees special meeting of August 26, 2019.
Second.
Any changes? Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Orland Township Food and Pet Pantry raffle license.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve issuing a raffle license to the Orland Township Food and Pet Pantry to conduct a raffle during their Pet Palooza event Saturday, September 14, 2019 at the Orland Township.
Second. Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Orland Park Veterans Commission raffle license.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
I move to approve issuing a raffle license to the Orland Park Veterans Commission to conduct a raffle during the Orland Park Veterans Golf outing that will take place on Tuesday, September 10th, 2019 at Silver Lake Country Club.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Katsinas?
Aye.
Trustee Malani?
Aye.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Dodge?
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Healy?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda, item A, payroll for August August 23rd, 2019. Item B, accounts payable from August 20th, 2019 through September 3rd, 2019, approval. Item C, Old Mill Landscape Improvements, Hay and Associates, consultant fee for bid plans and specifications. Item D, ordinance for Village Code Title 7, Chapter 6, amusement devices. Item E, low-speed electric bicycles ordinance. Item F, amending Title 7, Chapter 18 in regard to video gaming ordinance. Are there any items to remove off the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Calendro?
can I please move letter F? I think there was an error. It was a 2-1 vote, so I don't think it should have been on consent. So I move
On which one?
F as in Frank.
Okay. Are there any others? I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through E.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Amending Title 7, Chapter 18 in regard to video gaming.
I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Malani?
ordinance number, please.
5431.
I move to pass ordinance number 5431 entitled, "An Ordinance Amending Title 7, Chapter 18 of the Orland Park Village Code in regards to video gaming."
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Dodge?
a number of questions. So how do we wish to handle the conversation? I have questions for
Well, ask your questions.
All right. So there's a couple of parts. So how many licenses and how are we going to decide those licenses? Why now? It looks like there's a couple of pieces where the office of the mayor becomes the sole local control commissioner. Basically, the village president to administer the chapter, so you have all the rights to approve or deny or waive requirements. And that will be my first batch of questions.
Mr. Dubleby, would you like to answer those? So first was, I guess,
How many
the first
and
one was
how?
how many, and then why now?
Well, how many and how are we going to vote on these, given the way it's written?
How many would be based on how many the village board at the recommendation of the village president would bring forward. So it would be limited to organizations that meet criteria and not be within 500,
300 feet. 300 feet of it. It's,
organization that has a gaming ordinance. Why now? The gaming ordinance will be at its 1-year anniversary. We felt it needed to be looked at and reevaluated by the board. And why it's going to the village president's office, because that's the process for liquor license. This is probably just as important. I hate to see a situation where the mayor would deny a liquor license, but the village manager would be approving or asking for approval for a gaming license. It just made sense to have them coordinated with the same office.
Mr. Chairman, if we are limited to 2 comments on each, then I'm going to ask a question and make a statement, or do we want to have a broad-based discussion?
Ask your question.
I'll assume that
You
this
still have the floor, so ask your question.
I will be happy to ask my question, and I'll make a statement as well, assuming we're limited to 2. Tom, in section 7-18- it looks like 6, the 5 stricken out, maximum video gaming licenses and terminals. No more than 21 video gaming licenses shall be issued and enforced initially. Issuance of video gaming terminal licenses beyond the initial 21 will be by the board on a case-by-case basis. I guess my question there is, can you or Dennis Walsh, the village attorney, explain to me exactly how this is going to work in terms of like liquor licenses? The full board votes a new video gaming license, or takes away, so it is exactly like we do liquor licenses, or, given other sections, basically give considerable power to the office of mayor to waive requirements, especially when transferring licenses. Is there something else in here that I'm missing?
So that was the direction that was given to Kleinthorpe, was to draft it so that it was exactly like a liquor license, and that the board would have the discretion to create an additional license or to take that license away when an establishment closed.
Correct. Right now, there's 21 initial licenses. If a entity wants to apply for a license, there needs to be a license to apply for. Whether or not the village wants to extend the number of licenses will be a decision that's made by the village board.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Dodge?
I guess I would like it that explicitly spelled out in the ordinance, because as of right now, I look at one section and it says the office of the mayor has considerable authority to grant or take away essentially as many gaming licenses as we want, up to 60 once we have 60 Class A's, if my number's right. And this is not specific enough to say exactly like the liquor ordinance, the number of permitted video gaming licenses has to come back to the full board.
Well, that's what 718.6 says. It says there's 21 licenses. In order for another license to be available for anybody to apply for, it would be a decision made by the village board. If the village board decided to increase the license by one or more, then whoever was in line for the application, it would be granted at the discretion of the mayor, based on the requirements that are set forth in the ordinance. It's very similar to what we do with the liquor licenses.
Very similar, but not exactly.
I don't see it being that clear, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Mayor, if I may continue.
Go ahead.
The question that I posed to staff earlier, I don't think they have an answer ready, relates to signage and advertising. So I have an open question in my mind about whether or not A-frames that say slots or gaming would be allowed. I think currently it might be allowed somewhere between the signage ordinance and the gaming ordinance, but that's an unanswered question. And I'd also basically, well, I can save my comments to the end. I don't want to hog the time for the board to discuss this.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Calangelo?
how many Class A liquor licenses do we have? Is it 62 now, or what's the number?
We're at about 70, and my understanding is there's 6 other locations that may be interested in gaming. That's my understanding. So it's about 70, and they would have to, Tom would have to confirm the number of people that are waiting on the gaming. Tom or Greg?
Yeah, there are presently 7 on the waiting list.
Okay, and there's 70 Class As. Now, assuming a couple Class As are close enough to each other, this could be, what's a ballpark, 50 more facilities if everyone asked for it?
Yeah, there are a few facilities that would be too close, so they'd be limited to one or the other, but that conflict only exists in about 10 locations, so.
So this could be 60 more restaurants or 60 more Class As having this benefit?
Well, 60 minus the 21 that are currently either
Okay.
allowed or in
So
process, so.
40 and change?
Yeah.
Okay. And we only made the Village of Orland Park, we only made about 88,000 this year on video gambling so far? Is that the numbers?
I don't have the total number, it's about $8,400 per establishment,
Okay,
and that's a partial year.
okay. And right now, we still have 4 outstanding licenses that are not being used,
Or in process,
in process, but no live.
but are not live,
And all-
correct? 17 are open.
Right, and all those 17s haven't even been open for the whole year, correct?
Correct. None of them have, because it's been 1 year since the ordinance was established, and it took them some time to get approved and do the build-out.
Okay. I just think it's way too early to expand it more. I wasn't for it before, but I think it's just too early to tell the effects on our town. Thank you.
Any other comments? So my only comment is we're reviewing it because it was required in the ordinance to review it after a year. This was the recommendation from staff to the board, and I think Trustee Calandrello, to your point, I think the board can always control the number of liquor licenses, gaming licenses, just like it does with liquor, so they don't have to grant any more licenses if they so choose not to. Any other comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
No.
Trustee Dodge.
No.
Trustee Calandrello.
No.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Elevated tank number 5 rehabilitation bid award.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve the base bid and bid alternate 1 from ERA Valdivia of Chicago, Illinois, and award the contract in the amount of $447,637, base bid amount of $547,870, plus bid alternative number 1 amount $131,800.
Second.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton.
During committee, this is something that was discussed, and it was just discussed this evening. Staff did go back after a recommendation because the unions were complaining that we were using a muralist to do the design. If you could bring the design up on the screen, I'd appreciate it. And so the staff, upon recommendation of the committee from before, went out and rebid it and had all the changes made per the request, and we did receive 3 bids. The difference between the lowest bidder and the next one was over $300,000. This project was budgeted for $1.2 million, and it came in at $447,000. So it did come under budget. It is utilizing water fund money, which can only be used for water projects. It came under budget. This tower is over on Harlem Avenue, which we do get a lot of complaints from the business owners that they are the stepchild, the forgotten side of town, because they're on the east side of town. It's the Harlem Avenue corridor. And over in the Harlem Avenue corridor, we do have a lot of vacant properties and a lot of transitions going on over there. This particular water tower is located at Colonial Chapel. And it's the number 1 that needs the most rehab to it. One of the things that I brought up at committee, and one of the things that was discussed when this was discussed over a year ago, when it was budgeted, is that we needed something aesthetically pleasing, and I think this is something that would bring to the business owners over there and prospective business owners, showing that we do care about this corridor because it is aesthetically pleasing. I know some people would just prefer that it was one color. Unfortunately for us, water towers are a necessity to the village. We need to put our water somewhere. So we have these, you could call them monstrosities sticking up in the air. So if nothing else, you have something to deal with. Let's do something nice with it. Another comment that came to me was that, well, if we do this one this way, everybody else is going to want it. I really doubt that the students at Sandburg High School would want this on their water tower because they do appreciate the fact that it says home of the Eagles. The water tower on Wolf Road by Eagle Ridge is a short, squatty water tower, which definitely would not adhere to this design. And the water tower at the northwest corner of Silver Lake Country Club wouldn't need anything on the bottom because they already have beautiful trees that cover the base of that particular water tower. And so I know it came out of committee 2-1, but I just really personally feel that this would be sending a very positive message to all of our business owners on the Harlem Avenue corridor that, hey, we're really trying to help out over here. We're trying to do something that's aesthetically pleasing. Public Works did get a company out there, and they did clean up the median. It was all full of weeds and everything else. Doesn't look like LaGrange Road, and I think this would be a positive message sending to those business owners that we do care and we are trying.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Katsinas.
I was in committee and I did vote no on this because I think the tower itself is just too busy, too many things going on. I agree, we have to recognize the businesses that are in the east part of town, but I'm not sure a water tower color is a way of doing it. I think sometimes less is more. As you said, it's a structure that sticks up in the ground. Why bring more attention to it? I think the dominant thing is our logo in Orland Park. Sometimes, in my opinion, less is more. And I think by adding more things to it, it doesn't always make things look nice. So my feeling is the water tower colors, but, going without the additional $40,000 for artwork. And I understand it is coming from a water fund, but at the end of the day, all the village money is taxpayer money. So I would be in favor of doing the paint, but taking out the additional $40,000 for the decorative flames or grass and the trees and the red brick. I think that's unnecessary, and I think there's better ways to spend $40,000 than on a water tower. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Malani?
I have a comment and several questions for staff, so...
Go ahead.
First, I'm glad this discussion's finally made it to the board floor, because it's something that I actually talked to Trustee Fenton about back in May as a concern, and, I'm glad we're finally talking about this and coming to a decision. Something was said in committee. The original budget for this was $1.2 million. Is that correct?
Fiscal year 19 budget, which is $800,000.
I couldn't hear
So
you.
there was $800,000 in this budget year, and there was $427,000 that was rollover from 2018, and that was all for paint rehabilitation work, which would include water towers.
Okay,
I want
so-
to make sure that microphone's working.
Thank you.
Mike's not.
I'll wait for them to check. Okay, so the 1.2 million total, that includes the corral, that includes the generators, that includes the interior and the exterior finish, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we'd be using the total 800 plus the 427 from carryover. Okay, thank you. The next question I guess I have then, and thank you for the answers to the questions earlier today. Would help me kind of frame my thoughts. So the tank was painted in 2001, almost 19 years ago. So we're looking at a life expectancy about 20 years of the current paint, the Tenemic paint with the zinc primer, which is a multi-part epoxy, if I remember correctly. So we're looking to possibly spend $131,000 to sandblast, retool, to put another multi-part epoxy coating on the tank?
Correct.
So a purpose of an epoxy coating would be just to be able to power wash it and to recoat it and then get the same lifespan, correct?
I think I'm not sure I understood the epoxy coating just to be a longer life expectancy than the overcoating with the regular paint.
Okay, so I guess based on what I'm thinking here is if we got 20 years out of what we did, and your estimate was about 25 years out of the new coating, we're getting 5 years out of $131,000. Doesn't seem cost effective to me. So if we could just head down the road of possibly...
Trustee Malani,
Yeah.
when we met with them, they said that by sandblasting the tank, the coating would actually adhere better and last a longer period of time instead of just power washing and kind of just, roughing up the surface that's currently there. That's why they were saying the
Okay, so
sandblast it.
we'd no longer use the old manufacturer, we'd sandblast, use a...
Sandblast it down to bare metal, and they would recoat the tank with it's a different type, it's still in a, what is it? It's a newer primer that would adhere better to the tank.
So it's beneficial then to do the 131,000?
Yes.
It's not just to be able to sandblast it so we can use a new system?
Correct.
We will get more life out of it?
Yes.
Okay, because that's kind of where I was confused, so that helps. I guess the second thing, we look at Tower 5, and it's dirty. It's really dirty, and we have that, the northern exposure, on a darker color, you wouldn't see that. On a lighter color, you're going to see it. So I understand the purpose of the artwork, but the artwork is $40,000, and I know we don't have to do every tank, But we do have 7 tanks, and we may have the possibility wanting to do something like this on other tanks. So spending $40,000 on artwork that we may not be able to reproduce because the artist may decide to retire, may not be able to look exactly the same. And I think we'd kind of want uniformity instead of one tower looking nice and this one looking okay, and having different varieties across them if we're going to do it. And second of all, as Trustee Katsinas made, I think it's a little busy. I think it's a lot. And, you know, instead of being, you know, so forward with the artwork, maybe there's a way we can make everybody happy. Okay, we do the recoding because it sounds like, you know, it's probably the way to go. At first, I wasn't convinced, but I think I'm a little more convinced now. But, I mean, if we were able to do something a little simpler, I mean, don't give me Photoshop, I'm terrible. But just something simple with a color here that gives us a dark look and feel very similar to the look of LaGrange Road. We pull that color in, but then still give us the white ball on top with Orland Park on it. We save the $40,000, but still be able to bring in the color. It's the same volume of paint, so it wouldn't cost any more to paint it this way. It's just a different option, and a little cheaper to do and easier to replicate if we decide to do another tank in the future.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton?
There is no artist involved in this particular design that was taken out of the bid. This is strictly by the company that, it's their painters that are doing it. And then I know staff did mention to me about using a dark color for the whole tower. There's an issue with mold and weathering.
Well, we're more concerned
whole
about
thing is-
heat buildup and
Right.
just more condensation buildup on the inside of the tank. We get a lot of condensation throughout the entire interior of the tank in the summertime.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Healy?
I'm in favor of keeping our costs low. I know it's, the businessmen that I know around Harlem Avenue, they would like lower water bills, they'd like lower taxes. I think they'd like to have it painted to the nth degree if they're not paying for it. Asked if they'd pay for it, I don't think they'd offer a dime. I think everybody would like lower water bills, and 40,000 may be a drop in the bucket, but I think the benefit should trickle down. So, okay.
Any other comments?
Those water metaphors.
Nope. No other comments? Okay, so I have a couple of questions to follow up on Trustee Malani. So how much more lifespan are we thinking if we do that?
Approximately 10 years.
Approximately 10 years. So we're going from 20 to 30?
Yes.
Okay. That changes the math. And the different color, I heard the, you know, kind of the side conversation about the darker color, we're worried about more condensation, which I get. I also understand Trustee Malani's point, white is going to show the dirt more, which is going to mean more cleaning. So from your perspective, if you had, you know, a two-color, not all of this, but a two-color that hid the dirt versus a one-color all white, what, all things, you know, else being equal, which one would you prefer between the condensation and the cleaning? Would you have a recommendation you would make?
Well, the cleaning, clean the tank about every 5 or 6 years, you're looking at about $7,000 to $10,000 for power washing the tank. So,
Will having a darker color really change that, or will we still have to do it?
I believe it'd cut down on it by having a darker color.
Okay.
I don't think we have to do it as often.
Okay. How about the condensation? What risk does that run?
It just can start rusting inside of the tank a little prematurely, so.
That seems like a bigger risk than having to power wash
Yeah,
a little bit.
correct, yes.
Having to power wash 5 times over 20 years as opposed to 4 times for $7,000, I think the risk of rust seems to be a little bit
Correct.
more to me.
Yes.
Okay. So all things being equal, then you would agree with that, and then all white with the logo would be preferred to the two-tone for that reason?
Correct.
Okay. Not talking about this, but just the two-tone versus white. Okay. So I guess the only other comments I have is, you know, the water tower, painting the water tower is not going to have any impact on vacant properties at all. It needs to be painted. It doesn't look good. Also, we said, hey, they stick out of the ground. We got to deal with them. Well, these water towers are critical to our system. they pressurize our water supply and our water system. Is that not correct?
Yes, they maintain the pressure in the system.
Correct. So, clearly they're important. So that's why I'd rather see all white and not worry about the rust on the inside because of their importance to the village and to our water supply. With that said, it's a water tower at the end of the day. And so to me, simple is better, especially if simple costs less. With that, call the roll.
Trustee Fenn.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Calangelo.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Nay.
Trustee Katsinas.
No.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
So, Trustee Milani, you understand that that vote is for the, as pictured.
Oh, I am so sorry. I thought we were agreeing on the all white, sorry.
Well,
So,
Good.
I'm sorry, I say nay.
would you like to tell him again? Because I didn't hear you. Please call the roll again.
Trustee Fenn.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Calangelo.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Nay.
Trustee Katsinas.
No.
Trustee Malani.
Nay.
Mayor Pico.
Nay.
What a joke.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Calangelo?
I do have a question for legal.
Sure.
Is that a proper procedure what we just did with voting change, with what just happened on the floor?
I think the trustee didn't understand what his vote meant and wanted to correct it, so he has the right to do that.
Okay. I just, with the chair asking of him questioning, and I just didn't want to make sure no one felt pressure. Thank you.
And a question for you, Attorney Walsh. Can we now, since it's still on the agenda, can we put one of the alternative bids forward at this juncture, since we voted down the main motion? Because I believe there's an alternative bid in there, or an alternative motion in there for just the white. Is there not?
No?
Yes, that's.
Is there?
No?
Yes. So I will entertain a motion. I'll have to look and see exactly what it is. Or has that been stricken from here?
Looks like it's not in there.
It was in here originally. Okay, well, then I guess it will have to come back at another board meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Dodge?
question for the attorney. Mr. Walsh, will you explain, in terms I can understand, how a motion to reconsider should work?
How, a motion to reconsider?
We just voted down a motion. We still have an unsettled item to deal with, painting of the water tanks, whatever aesthetic we can ultimately agree to. Is it simply then the motion comes back, or is it technically now a motion to reconsider?
Well, I don't know what the motion will be, but I'm assuming there'll be a different motion made at the next meeting or some subsequent meeting. So we're not reconsidering this specific motion. We're bringing a different motion with different numbers, I'm assuming.
Thank you for the clarity.
Okay, let's move on. Those were different last time.
151st Street at West Avenue roadway improvements, including new roundabout construction.
May I please have a resolution number?
1917.
I move to pass resolution number 1917 entitled Resolution Approving the Local Public Agency Agreement for Federal Participation to be entered into by the Village of Orland Park and the Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT, and for the appropriation of village funds for the purpose of paying for the local agency share related to the construction of the improvements on 151st Street from West Avenue to LaGrange Road under IDOT project number 8TZ9, parentheses 371, state job number C-91-158-18, MFT section number 13-007-00071-00-WR.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Calendrello.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Getzinis.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Village Center Landscape Master Plan.
I move to approve the proposal from Hay and Associates for $17,000 for preparation of bid documents and bid phase assistance for the Village Center Landscape Plan.
Second.
There's more.
There's more.
You got to read here.
Oh, just one.
There's a lot of ands.
Oh.
It's not coming up.
Oh, yeah, damn.
I think you read this one already, so let's go.
Start at the top.
Why don't you start from here? Just start from there.
Okay, I move to approve the landscape plan entitled Village Center Landscape Master Plan prepared by Hay and Associates and dated 5/16/2019. And I move to approve the use of funds from the Tree Preservation and Green Infrastructure account in an amount not to exceed $89,000 for the construction of Phase 1 of the Village Center Landscape Master Plan. And I move to approve the proposal from Hay and Associates for $17,000 for the preparation of bid documents and bid phase assistance for the Village Center Landscape Plan.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? None? So I don't have a question on the plan, on the landscape plan. I've seen it. I know we made some modifications to it. We took out some hardscaping that was in there, which would have been pretty costly and actually didn't really probably solve the problem that we were looking to solve with it. But the question I have is $17,000 to prepare bid documents. We already have the landscape plan. As a landscape contractor, I could just about put that in from the plan that's there right now. It seems like, Phase 1 is, we're spending $89,000 for Phase 1 for the materials and the labor to do the work. Why $17,000 to prepare bid documents? That should be something that's pretty straightforward, that we don't need to spend that kind of money. That seems a bit awfully high.
Mr. Chairman, we can get the microphone. Mr. Chairman, we can go back and review that cost and ask them to justify the amount and to reduce this as we can. Come back with a amount to either justify this or a more reasonable amount.
Yeah, in my experience, they have a plan that's done, and it basically goes into a computer program and it's going to spit out a pretty generic proposal, and then they'll make modifications to that proposal. That does not seem to be a $17,000 cost. I would entertain a motion to amend and to amend the original motion to not include, to strike the portion about approving the proposal from Hay and Associates for $17,000. I will entertain that motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Healy.
I move to approve the landscape plan titled Village...
So, Trustee Healy, this is just kind of rules of order stuff. All you have to do is say so moved.
So moved.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
So the amendment to strike the last portion of this, of the original motion that approves the proposal for $17,000 to prepare bid documents and bid phase assistance for the Village Center Landscape Plan is now up for discussion. Does anybody have any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Dodge.
Just want to make sure I understand, why was this in here in the first place? I guess that'd be a question for staff.
We'll get that answer for you tomorrow. Personally answer questions in here.
Okay.
We could always bring it back, but for now, I think we need those answers. Any other questions or comments?
Just postpone the motion.
So I'll vote on the amendment to strike that to strike the last paragraph of this. Call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a,
Trustee Malani.
sorry. If I remember back from our committee meeting on this, that was not in our meeting notes for the committee meeting, so.
Okay, we'll note that and we'll follow up on that. Are there any other comments or questions on the amendment? Okay, call the roll on the amendment.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello. Aye. Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Now back to the amended motion. Are there any questions or comments for the other two portions of this motion? So the question is put to move to approve the use of funds from the Tree Preservation and Green Infrastructure account in the amount not to exceed $89,000 for the construction of Phase 1 of the Village Landscape Master Plan, and to approve the landscape plan titled Village Center Landscape Master Plan prepared by Hay and Associates and dated 5/16/2019. Call the roll.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello. Aye. Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Update to Centennial Park Soccer Field Pavilion.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Dodge.
I'll move this, and then just a couple of background comments. Move to recommend to the village board to approve waiving the bid process by utilizing the Goodbye Cooperative and award the purchase and delivery of an Icon 24x44 shelter to Park Creation, Inc. at a cost not to, Park and Rec, I think that's a typo, or not to, a cost not to exceed $25,980.
Second.
Reason for the waiving of the bid, and, sorry,
So,
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Dodge?
Just, there were some issues, I think, village manager Doobie with the bidder in terms of responsiveness to staff on this issue. There were some issues with responsiveness to our staff from the original bidder, why we're waiving the process, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Calandrello?
We're getting this through our cooperative, so, and they bid, we're kind of taking advantage of a bigger bid, right? So it's not like this hasn't been competitive price. It's different than waiving a bid without using. So can you explain that to, we talked about this before, but can you explain what the cooperative does for us and why it's, while we're technically waiving the bid process, we're taking product from a bigger bid. Does that make sense?
It's already been bid.
It's double bid, I guess.
I wish I could explain it to you. I can't. What I'd like to do is ask the director to prepare a response for you.
I think I can generally explain how cooperatives work, which is we've entered in, there's a cooperative out there that goes out and gets these bid prices. To Trustee Calandrello's point, they already get the best prices they can buying in the power of a cooperative, and we're part of that cooperative, and that's what we're using here. So we are exercising buying power that's even bigger than the Village of Orland Park to get this price. Any other questions?
No, I was just trying to get the point that it's just been bid and we're just using someone else's bidding power, so.
I do have a question, and maybe somebody's not here to answer this, I don't know. But this pavilion that's going on the soccer fields, which I don't have a problem with, but we know that in the future, probably not too distant future, we're going to look at some redevelopment in Centennial Park West. How does that impact that, and are we just throwing something up there that we're then going to have to rip down in 2 years, or are we going to be able to move it?
I'll get that answer for you.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Dodge?
Might we approve this and then direct the village manager and his staff to answer some of our questions before they go ahead?
Do we want to do that, or we just want to table it to the next, or postpone it to the next meeting?
I think there's some time urgency on this one.
Yeah, they need to get, there's a time urgency on it. They want to get it done before the weather changes.
Okay.
So if as a preference, just, I think Tom is pretty clear of the questions and the answers we'd like.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Calandrello?
I believe this passed originally when I was chair of Park and Rec, and this is on the east side of the tracks. So this is by all the soccer fields, which would be the east side, so I don't think this would have any, and of course, I'd love Tom to confirm that, but I believe this has nothing to, won't affect any Centennial West issues.
Well, I will vote for this pending the answer to that question, as long as that question is that it won't impact, we won't have to be tearing this down and wasting 25 grand. Then I'm fine with it. Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Calangelo.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
John Humphrey Complex Repairs, change order number 2,
Resolution, please.
1918.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Dodge.
move to pass Resolution 1918 entitled Village Board of Trustees hereby approves the change order referenced in the recitals above and authorizes and directs the village manager as designee execute the above described change order and other documents necessary and appropriate to implement the change order. The Village Board of Trustees also recognizes and approves an increase in the completion time for the project, an expanded scope as set forth in the contract by 30 days or more for the additional work.
Second.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Dodge.
staff is responding to some of the conditions that we found out there, and they felt the change order was necessary.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? What's the net cost increase of all this? Because there's a lot of numbers in there, and I didn't have a net total that I could find.
It's $262,300.
No, the net cost increase of all of these changes, the net.
So that's the net increase.
It's $262,324.
Well, that's in conflict with what I was told, which was just $10,000 was the net of all the changes that were being made. So,
Mr. Chairman, this is clearly a pretty big change order, and I think we certainly found conditions that were not anticipated or not found on the initial biddings.
Perhaps maybe I can address,
and is this within the contingency?
yes.
Okay.
In discussion and staff meeting, it came to our attention that any change orders that exceed $10,000 need to be documented and need to be brought forward to the board for approval. I believe was the direction we got. So what we've done is we put together the change order for approval for the board to review and approve. This is not a procedure we've done in the past. In the past, we've usually just approved change orders. Again, that's, I believe, upon your advice, we have to document the changes, lay out the cost for the changes and the scope. We had to come forward for board approval, not only for this, but for all change orders going forward. Even if the change order had been approved as part of the contract, we still have to document specifically what each change is and what the cost is. So that is perhaps where the $10,000 amount came from, because many of the individual items and certainly the total amount exceeds $10,000.
So my previous question then was misunderstood, and that's where that number came from. Because I saw the 262, but I also saw all the other changes and strikes and all that, and I asked the net amount. But the other question is, it still falls within the contingency that we put in place for this project, correct? Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton.
Two-part question. So how much money did we put in contingency for this particular project, and how much have we spent so far on change orders? I know this isn't the first one.
So the total contingency for this project was $270,238. And this is out of that contingency, this is our first request, first and final request.
There wasn't another one? I thought we had another one.
The change order that was passed before it was not out of the contingency. That was an added request for added funds. So
that one, the bids came back higher than staff had anticipated because of all of the grading work and the bad soils that we found out there. So that was actually a full request as opposed to a contingency. Is that correct?
Correct. So very quickly, the original contract was $1.6 million. Then we added $547,000 to improve the soil conditions and drainage issues. That was change order number one. But then later on, now today, we are asking for 262,000 more for about 10 other items that was added to the project.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Katsinas.
just a quick question. Was it because of the soil conditions that played into these added-on charges?
There's one or two items that relates to soil conditions. The others are staff and departments' needs or observations in the field that required these improvements. Some of them are safety improvements. For example, the concrete patch around the concession stand, it was in a very bad shape, and it was a trip hazard that was observed during the construction process that was added on. So there are some items and there are some items that are added for long-term solution instead of coming back to it at a later date.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Dodge.
I'm ready to vote for this because we need to finish the work. It's just broken concrete should have been caught in the initial bidding. So I'm going to vote for this, but I'll express some frustration that we have this big of a change order when some of these conditions should have been known. I've been in professional services for a lot of years, and this is a pretty big change order. Just
So I guess I would agree, I will agree with that as well. And then, our original bid estimate for the budget 2 years ago or so was 600,000. And I think that was done internally by staff. So I would say, let's look at our procedures inside the department that was responsible for giving us estimates and make sure we get better estimates going forward. I agree the work needs to be done. We know, I know some of the stuff we ran into was unknown. Because it was, we basically put fill on, in the 80s, the fill was put on top of peat, and all the peat was underneath it. I get that. We didn't know it was there. But going forward, we'd like to see a little tighter budget estimates on projects of this size so that we're not surprised with big numbers that, on something we have to get done, we need to get done, but now we aren't prepared for it.
So, Mayor, there are some items, for example, the size of the field 4. That's one of the items that you will see here is construction of a retaining wall. If we had not added this item, the field, according to the baseball experts, it was too short for any type of game. So we had to push that wall out. That added the project cost.
But to Trustee Dodge's point, that's something we should have looked at and talked to somebody beforehand. So I agree with that, so that we had a better estimate. We would have probably still approved this project, but we would have not had a surprise to the amount that we've had surprises, because we hate surprises. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Malani.
The one question I have, and this is just because I'm not quite sure is where we're going with the fields in the future, the enhancing the irrigation system at the football field, is this going to, are we still doing football at John Humphrey, or has that been decided yet? And I guess the second question, does that take care of the baseball fields as well?
We're in the dark again.
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think we're going to go forward with football at that location. The irrigation is to take care of the fields, yes. So it will impact the baseball fields, yes, but the expanse of grass is more than just the baseball fields. It's also to take care of the grass.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Calandrello.
I just want to follow up. Did you just say that we're not having football back at John Humphrey, even though we promised them 2 years ago about that?
That's ultimately a decision the board will make, but from what my understanding is football may not be allowed at the application going forward.
And has there been, so are we changing the plans based on football not coming back?
Plans have not been changed based on football not coming back. The plan is basically the same.
Okay, so when are we going to have a full board discussion on changing football not welcome back to John Humphrey after we promised them they would come back 2 years ago?
So I guess I'll answer that question. So trustee Calandrello, we didn't make any promises to anyone about football going anywhere. I don't recall ever making a promise to anyone, and I think what we said is that we would revisit this as a board when the project is complete, which we should do when the project is complete. I don't think tonight's the appropriate time to have that discussion until the project's complete, which, from the looks of it, will not be ready until 2021.
I'm sorry, I was just surprised at the comment that was made. So that kind of startled me that our village team would make those decisions without talking to the whole board, or polling the board at least. And if it was done, I'm sorry that I wasn't polled for that.
I don't think the village team has made any decisions on it. I think that the field outline is the same as the field outline was before, and the sprinklers are to take care of the entire field. It's a board discussion for a future date. If you'd like to put it on the agenda for a future date, feel free.
I'm sorry, I just heard Tom say that, so I apologize. That startled me, that comment. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Village Code Amendment, Title 7, Chapter 4, Section 2, in Section 15, opening and closing hours, service of food.
Orange number, please.
5432.
Is it 3-2, John?
5432.
Thank you. I move to pass ordinance number 5432 entitled an ordinance amending Title 7, Chapter 4, Section 2, definitions, and Section 15, opening and closing hours of the Orland Park Municipal Code.
Second.
And to let everyone know what this is, basically, we found in the liquor code, there's a little bit of a gap because movie theaters are allowed to serve alcohol. Sometimes their movies start at, say, 12:30. When the 2 o'clock hour hits, they have to stop serving just like everybody else. But according to our liquor ordinance, they actually have to pull the liquor up 20 minutes after that 2 o'clock time, which means they'd have to walk in the middle of the movie and pull everyone's liquor off their table. So what this does is it allows them to keep the liquor there until the end of the movie, and at that time it has to be disposed of. That's what this is for. Any other questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Dodge.
It's awfully human of us to let people finish their drinks.
Just to make note, it's a non-drinker that brought that
Yeah, I
forward.
was just going to say, that's the irony here, right?
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Temporary Human Resource Staffing Services.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve the village manager to enter an employee leasing agreement for temporary staffing services to hire an experienced temporary human resource professional for 40 hours a week for 12 weeks, not to exceed $27,000.
Second.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Healy.
I'd just like to make a comment that in the agreement, I noticed a non-solicitation agreement by the agency that's going to fulfill the contract. And it struck me that I haven't seen, just going through contracts, I haven't seen too many non-solicitation agreements in our contracts to our consultants where we don't want them, quote-unquote, poaching our employees or whatever. And I just want to make a comment that I'd like to see a non-solicitation, more non-solicitation factors included in the future contracts to protect the village from poaching.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Dodge, or
No, it's
Trustee
the-
Malani?
the other ball.
The other ball guy?
Thanks. What is the exact scope of work that this person will be doing?
Yes. Well, that's the finance on that.
right now, we are finding ourselves in a really tight kind of fourth quarter in terms of the various projects that are on the plate for human resources. We are in the middle of a human capital management implementation. One of the main or primary projects that this person will work on is maintaining our dual systems. So in HR, we do a lot of work entering data into our current payroll system to update the system, whether it's salary changes, employee life changes, et cetera. We'll have to do that in both systems. And we're looking for this person really to focus in on that as a primary project, as well as helping us develop some of the feeds for the various vendors for this project, and then to assist with other projects. Just this past May, we lost our part-time assistant to a promotion, which was a great opportunity, but that put us in a backlog scenario. And then we also have a staff member who's going to be going out for a few weeks at a real critical time, but it's just where we're at in terms of that situation. So if we want to continue and move forward with some of our critical projects, we see that this additional staffing will help us do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello. Aye. Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Is there anybody, there's nobody signed in to speak. Is there anybody that wishes to speak? Mrs. Williams. Make sure you state your name and address for the record, please.
Virginia Williams. My address is 8114 Bobolink. I've been in this town for 41 years. But guess what, folks? I'm coming with a congratulations. In about a year and a half, a week and a half, I've had about 30 calls from residents wanting me to come up and commend you, the board, for the well job of hiring people that did the streets on Wheeler and around Wheeler subdivision fast and efficient. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So I think people are happy with Wheeler Drive, which is good. Slow down my emails a little bit. Anybody else that wishes to speak? Board comments, Trustee Fenton.
First of all, I'd like to thank staff and their hard work for the concert over the weekend. It was a big success. The weather did hold out, even though it looked grim there for a while. But they did a great job. I did speak to staff. Some people were concerned about it was hard to walk when leaving because it was still kind of dark. So possibly next year move the time up and just do 2 bands instead of 3 for multitude of cost savings too. But I know a lot of people did appreciate that it was a free concert. I did not receive the robocall that the mayor mentioned, so I don't know what it said, but there is no way that anyone in this community or anywhere else should have the right to say anything negative about our police department. We had a very difficult week, not only with arresting those 3 individuals from Arizona with their drugs and their guns, but we also lost one of our part-time police officers whose brother was also one of our full-time police officers. And then we also had the very tragic death of the little 2-year-old at the mall. So our police department really had to deal with a lot of drama the past week, and besides all that, they are the best of the best. So I agree with what the mayor had to say about the police department.
Thank you. Trustee Dodge?
Just a couple of comments. I would echo the sentiment about the police department. Been years in the making, has a lot to do with the leadership at the police department and the resources the community's been able to afford to give them. It's we're in a tough spot in terms of being in Cook County, and as we've all seen too many times, a lot of the challenges we face with crime tend to originate elsewhere. Definitely a tip of the hat to staff on a number of things they've been doing lately, so appreciate that. And then just a quick closing comment on the gaming ordinance. My vote was clear. I just want to make sure everybody understands my reasons. When we did it about a year ago, it was a limited basis, but I had some concerns about the structure of the ordinance then. This potentially is a lot more video gaming establishments in Orland Park than I personally want as a resident. As I noted during my comments, I have some issues with the ordinance itself. I don't think it's as clear as it needs to be in terms of the number, exactly what the articulated process is to change that number up or down based on board votes. I think there's some structural issues in terms of we're waiving requirements. I mean, we need to be very, very careful with transferring ownership. You know, you could make an argument that as Illinois, God love the state of Illinois, continues to expand everything, and we as a municipality have to deal with it, that there's going to be a run potentially on creating gaming parlors. So I personally would have preferred if we had tightened up a number of the things that were, I see it, structural in this ordinance, not the least of which is a question I posed to staff on signage. Thank you.
Trustee Calendro.
Just piggyback on comments regarding the concerts. I want to thank staff for the hard work. We were all out, I think we all were out there, and you can see that the residents enjoyed the free concert and that venue. And we've had them almost, we've had at one time 4-year free concerts. Now we have 2, I believe, at that location. So tip of the hat to Park and Recs department. They do a great job as always. Whenever they're challenged, they rise to the occasion. So Nancy and her crew, and Gary too, because they set it up. And then also, I did not get a robocall, but as a former state's attorney who worked hand in hand with the Orland Park Police Department, we have the best police in the nation, and I know that from firsthand experience. So they had a very challenging last 2 weeks. They rise to the occasion also. So I'm not sure what the contents was, but I want to give Chief McCarthy and all his crew kudos, and I'm sure I speak for all the residents, but we're with them, and keep up the good work.
Trustee Healy.
My heart goes out to the police department for suffering through the robocall, or having to suffer it. I know firsthand about being the brunt of robocalls, and to be honest with you, I laugh at them because they are so over-the-top ridiculous. The police don't have that luxury. They're in a very serious business. I have a brother who's on a police force in Evergreen Park, and I know the stress and anxiousness that a family feels for a family member who risks their life every day out there. And I just want to let the police department know that the honest citizens of Orland are proud of them and stand behind them. My second comment has to do with Centennial West, which I think is a hidden gem of this city that more people have to get out and visit and enjoy. And I have to compliment former the past boards and all that from years ago, and some of them are here, but to have the vision of getting that investment in that Centennial West done, and now I'd like to see it used more and more and get our return on investment. But we had 2 great events there, and I hope to have more. Thanks.
Trustee Katsinas.
Bill kind of stole my thunder there, talking about Centennial Park West. That is a hidden gem, and I know when it was originally done, like Trustee Dodge had stated to me, they were hoping to make it like a Ravinia West. Hopefully we can resurrect that idea, because it is a beautiful facility. And with our concert that we had with Jefferson Starship, the people really, really enjoyed it, and to have something of that caliber in your backyard is really something. Doing things like these events really makes us stand out, and that's why people come here. But also to the police department, and I want to beat in the same drum here, but it should be beaten. Out of all of the departments, and we have great departments in this village, the one that I was really impressed with their capabilities and what they do is the Orland Park Police Department. I drive by that building 5 times a day. Fortunately, never got a ticket. Probably will now. But what they do and have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I give them a lot of credit from the chief on down, and more importantly, to the families of our personnel that have to live with this, that aren't on the job, but have to live with the risk and danger. So for that, I thank our patrolmen, our police department, but also their families. Thank you.
Trustee Malani.
Wow, I've got very little to say now after everybody have said pretty much everything I wanted to. However, keep in mind, not only did we have one good concert, we had 2 great concerts. right? So, since the last time we've met. So, thanks to staff and everything that they've done to make that a success. I think you guys deserve the 3-day weekend. Okay, you probably got 1-day weekend here on Monday. To address the robocalls, I mean, most of us have been victims of this. The previous board have been victims of this. And, to be quite honest, when our police department becomes a victim of it, it's almost disgraceful to the people who are doing it. We offer an open forum here every night for people to come and voice their opinions, and it's a shame that they have to hide behind a phone call. That being said, our police department, they deserve a ton of credit. They put their lives on the line day to day, and those of you that are police officers or have families that are family members that are police officers, a routine traffic stop, sometimes, they're not routine. However, this one was. Our police department handled it in the proper manner. They did their jobs and turned into an arrest that, kept 3 criminals off the streets. So many thanks to them, and that's all I have.
Thank you. So a couple of minor corrections. The routine traffic stop, it was not routine. We ended up with heroin, meth, and 3 guns. And the reason why it seemed routine is because our police did a phenomenal job of keeping it from getting out of hand. Additionally, I too want to thank Trustee Dodge for the efforts in Centennial Park West. He's been the one consistent voice for many years on that, and he was also the consistent voice over my entire tenure supporting a concert. But it's Ravinia South, not Ravinia West.
Sorry.
So
Close enough. I was okay with it.
and he has said that numerous times that that he wants us to become Ravinia South. So great job for staff, all staff, not just parks, but also the police, Public Works, everybody for an outstanding concert featuring Loverboy Jefferson Starship, which was a great first night, first ticketed event. It was outstanding, and then also a fantastic Labor Day event as well. So that was also a huge success. A reminder that Brewfest is September 21st, and there are a limited number of tickets available. Lastly, I do want to reiterate that we have the finest police department in the state, and all of Orland Park is proud of all that they do. With that, I'll take a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton.
Motion to go into executive session for A, approval of minutes, B, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific village employees, and C, purchase or lease of real property for the use of the village.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrella.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Yes.
Trustee Fenton.
Here.
Trustee Dodge. Here. Trustee Calandrella.
Here.
Trustee Healy.
Here.
Trustee Katsinas.
Here.
Trustee Malani.
Here.
Mayor Pico.
Here.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the employment agreement with George Kazwara, there we go, for the position of village manager for a 3-year term starting on October 14, 2019, with a starting salary of $170,000 and with benefits set forth in said written agreement.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrella.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. And I'd like to welcome George to Orland Park. I'm confident George will be an outstanding village manager. I think his leadership and character will be well received by our residents, our staff, and elected officials, and I think he'll be an integral part of positioning Orland Park for success over the next several decades. So welcome aboard. I'll entertain a motion
So moved.
Second.
To adjourn.
To adjourn.
to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Call the roll.
Dodge.
Trustee Dodge.
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Katsinas.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrella.
Aye.
Trustee Healy.
Aye.
Trustee Malani.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.